everyone, this is Eugene Roddenberry.
Dr. Mohammed Noor.
Adam Nimoy, Leonard Nimoy's son.
This is Leonard Crowfoot.
This is Dr. Aaron McDonald, Star Trek Science Advisor and Lieutenant Commander McDonald on Star Trek Prodigy.
And you're listening to
Humanist Trek.
Humanist Trek.
You're listening to Humanist Trek.
the Humanist Trek Podcast.
And you're listening to Humanist Trek, a fabulous, fabulous show.
Enjoy.
And don't worry, you can do your Temporal Mechanics 101 homework later.
Data holds them back, declaring this to be a ruse. The running boy was a ploy, because Data noticed this plaque that reads, "Home of the Red-Headed League," next to a rope hanging from a bell, and he points at a man walking toward them, Mr. Jabez Wilson, the intended victim of a most distasteful and untimely demise from a snake that falls from the bell when Data pulls the rope. Game, set, match. And Geordi's like,
God damn it, you've got to be kidding. Come on.
Damn it, he's doing it again.
Perhaps I could use this as an excuse to go to those far-off planets with little polka-dotted people if necessary, and be able to talk about love, war, nature, God, sex, all those things that go to make up the excitement of the human condition.
This is Captain Jean-Luc Picard.
Welcome aboard.
Jean-Luc Picard to the Starship Enterprise.
You want to review your rapid progress?
That nonsense is centuries behind us. To the Starship Enterprise.
Oh, yeah?
And it's enough, damn it!
Tempo, mon capitan.
To the Starship Enterprise.
But you can't deny that you're still a dangerous, savage child race.
Of the planet Earth.
You just don't get it, do you, Jean-Luc? That is the exploration that awaits you. Not mapping stars and studying nebula, but charting the unknown possibilities of existence.
Joe Lontrue, and welcome to Humanist Trek. It's a comedy Star Trek podcast about the humanism in Star Trek. I'm Sarah Ray.
And I'm Allie Ashmead.
And if you're in our Discord, you heard all about this already. Well, not all about this, but yesterday I took my son and we went down towards the hike right outside of Sedalia, which is kind of down towards the Colorado Springs area from where we are. And we did this hike out to, it's called Devil's Head Tower.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool hike. It takes you out to this observation tower. It's the only one of its kind still in use. It's like a fire lookout tower where they can see hundreds of miles in all directions from this tower.
Yeah. It's on my list to do because it's a stairs sort of up, intensive.
147 stairs or however much, 143, I think maybe. And it's straight up.
Was it metal? Was the stairs metal?
The handrails are metal. The steps were wood.
Okay.
And so one of the interesting, I think I know where you're headed here. One of the interesting things about this place is the unfortunate person who has to sit in this tower and watch for fires, because it's so high, it's at the peak of a mountain, essentially. Mm-hmm. It's a very dangerous place during lightning storms. And so they have to sit on a chair that is made of wood, and it has a footrest made of glass. So it's like all the things that will conduct the electricity away from the human body.
But first you got to climb up there, and right?
Yeah.
And on the metal, with holding onto a metal rail. I was just thinking it was metal
the whole thing. Yeah.
Metal steps, yeah.
No. And of course it's grounded, like the stair, you can see where the stair rails have those thick grounding wires that go off the metal, but still,
yeah.
It is home of the first female lookout ranger.
Nice. When was that?
First established in 1912. The station was built in 1912 and the tower was built in 1919. And then in 1951, they demolished the old tower and built the one that's currently there. So the one that's there is 70 years old. Located on a granite outcrop that is the highest point in the Rampart Range, Devil's Head Lookout has operated continuously as a U.S. Forest Service fire lookout for more than a century. The first female fire lookout in the country, Helen Dow, served at Devil's Head from 1919 to 1921. So at the beginning of it. Yeah.
Oh, that's surprising. Yeah.
Wow.
Go Helen.
Hell yeah. Helen, yeah.
Helen, yeah.
So let me tell you a little bit about this hike. So you go out to Sedalia and then you take this dirt road up into the mountains, and it goes through a campground. And I was like, oh, this is a really neat campground. We should come stay here sometime. Because it's not like your traditional campground where like it's site next to site next to site.
Mhm.
These are kind of really spaced out, and you've got a lot of room in the campsite itself. But what we discovered as we drove through it is it's basically an ATV recreation area.
Mhm.
So the trail up to the lookout is a climbing trail, but there are several other trails in this area which are meant for dirt bikes and ATVs and that kind of thing. So
Nice.
maybe we don't want to camp there.
All the time.
Yeah.
You hear that all
Yeah.
the time.
And it's busy. So this, like I told you off the air, this Devil's Head is a very popular hike. And the parking lot is a hot fucking mess. Nothing is marked for like where or how to park. And so it gets real dicey when it gets busy. And then people are parked way down the road leading to the parking lot. And it's just fucking insane. Totally worth it.
Okay.
You know, like let's go, but let's go at 5 o'clock in the morning, right? Like it's that kind of place.
You could literally go at 5 because it's light at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you do this 1.5 mile hike out to the tower itself. And along the way, there's all these little, informational signs that they put up about the area and the mountain and the ecology and all of that stuff, which is, really cool and scratches lots of itches for me. I enjoy that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And some of the stories along the way were really interesting, and I'll get back to that in just a second. But then you get to this kind of the path opens up to a meadow. The trail is really kind of rocky, and there's big like red rock structures all around you, and you come out into this kind of clearing, and there's like a little meadow and a cabin, and that's where the lookout person lives.
Oh, they live there.
Yeah, and they drag supplies up that trail in backpacks to supply the cabin.
Oh, fun.
So it is a private residence where this person lives. It reminded me a lot of like a lighthouse, or you have like the keeper that lives on site and
that's so
goes
cute.
up into the lighthouse to warn ships away. So then you get to the bottom of the stairs, not far from the cabin, and it is like stairs straight up. It reminded me a lot of Seven Falls in Colorado Springs, which we did. I've done a couple of times, I think. Once when I was a kid, and then again when we came out here on a vacation before we moved out here.
Mm-hmm.
And that way more stairs than this was. But you've just hiked 1.5 miles, like with a pretty steady incline the whole way. And so you get to the bottom of these stairs and you're like, fuck me.
I turn around and go home. I just turn around and go home. I'm like, you know what? I don't need to do that. I don't need to prove anything, and I'll just go home.
No, but it's so worth it. That's the thing.
No,
halfway up the stairs, I'm like, give me a minute. I'm having a middle-aged moment here. Hold on. I can do this. So I did. We got up to the top. It is fucking windy as shit up there, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see for hundreds of miles, and it is the most breathtaking view ever. So on one side of the tower, you look out and you can see Pikes Peak in the distance.
Oh, cool.
And then on the other side of the tower, you look out north into the distance and you can see Denver.
Nice.
Oh, it's so cool. And you got to know what you're looking for, because it is really off in the distance. It's not like, like we see Denver from Lookout Mountain, and it's like
you probably
right
need to do
there,
binoculars. Yeah.
It was intense. I can see it in some of my photos. It was so cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that was really cool. And then, the way back down is nice and easy. But then again, along the trail, there are all these informational signs. And so I got interested in the history of this place, having hiked there and reading some of these signs. And so that sent me down a Google rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the signs talk about this legend that there is a fortune hidden somewhere in these woods. And of course, all of these signs are like, there's gold in them, there hills. But by the way, remember, you're not allowed to go look for it. And anything you do find, if you were to happen to find something, is property of the U.S. Forest Service or whatever,
Don't tell them. I mean.
Right? Right. Just shut up.
Nobody's going to know.
So somewhere between the town of Deckers and Devil's Head Trail, there is supposedly a fortune hidden in them there woods. And this comes from rampartrange.org, talking about the spooky history of the area.
Mm-hmm.
In the early 1870s, train robbers stopped a train on the Denver and Rio Grande Railroad near Deckers and made off with $60,000 worth of gold. When the pursuing posse got too close, the bandits buried the gold near Devil's Head, marking a tree to remind them of the spot. Unfortunately for the robbers, a forest fire swept the area and removed all traces of their marked tree. Imagine what $60,000 in 1870s gold would be worth today, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other story is about topaz in the area. And on April 29th, 1981, Reverend Maurice Gordon Doc Dammitz, and author of Dead at the Top and Trouble Transformed, was hunting topaz near Devil's Head with a supposed friend when he suddenly and mysteriously disappeared along with all of his tools. The sheriff and Douglas County Search and Rescue with search dogs were never able to find any trace of him.
Ooh.
That one I don't think was on the signs. There was another one about there was a rich, thick topaz vein or whatever you call them for topaz.
Yeah.
And then a storm blew through and a mudslide covered it and buried it.
So wow.
That's another one that they're like, don't go after it. And even if you find it, it's ours.
1.4 million is what that gold is worth.
Damn. All right.
Today.
Let's go. Let's get your shovel. Get your shovel, Allie. Let's go.
No, but I gotta climb, and I don't know, man. Yeah.
Another spooky story about this area in 1960, Adolf Coors III, and of course Coors is a big name around here, was kidnapped and murdered in a failed ransom attempt. His body was found in a pit near the Brotherhood of the White Temple, which is due east of Dutch Fred. And Dutch Fred is an area you drive through on your way to the lookout. It's pretty close. And then the last freaky story I have for you about Devil's Head Lookout is about an episode of Rescue 911 hosted by none other than Captain Kirk himself.
I used to love that show.
The 11th episode of season 1, which aired on November 14th, 1989. It was not included in the syndicated version of Rescue 911, but the story goes that on June 10th, 1989, while attending a family picnic at Devil's Head Mountain in Colorado, cousins 9-year-old Melissa Kerr and 11-year-old Stephanie Hartwell took a short hike to an overlook while Melissa's father, Bob, waited for them at the base of the trail. When they did not return, search and rescue teams were called in, and they were eventually found. But there sure is a lot of kidnapping and missing people and mystery on this mountain hike that I went on yesterday. And speaking of kidnapping and mystery, let's uncover a mystery on this week's episode of Star Trek. It's Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 2, Episode 3, Elementary, Dear Data.
Commander, you'll soon be getting an intruder alert.
What? I've got something, sir.
Intruder alert, sir. It's an old-style starship, sir. Constellation class, heading this way under impulse com.
Number 1, kindly take charge of our guests until we have time to decide what we're going to do with them. Sir, number 1, keep them out of my way.
The D is 3 days early for a meetup with the USS Victory, so this week we're just going to kill some time.
They ain't got shit to do.
No, and this is the kind of episode, though, that I want to just grab a hold of the streaming era Star Trek creators and shake them hard and say, this is the character development stuff, the fluff episodes that make Star Trek what it is.
Yeah.
We need longer than a 10-episode fucking season.
Mm-hmm.
We need more. Or we need more than 5 seasons. Take your pick. But we need more episodes to spend time on this, what seemingly is unrelated stuff, but that really informs who these characters are and how they grow.
Yeah, I don't know if it's about money or what these days, but rarely do you get a show that's more than 5 seasons. Like, if it's a good show, then you get 5 seasons, but you're not gonna get 7, and you're certainly not gonna get 20 episodes like they used to do.
Right.
I don't know if it's the cost of each episode and the production of each, but you're not gonna get 20 episodes like we used to get.
Right. And I think you're right. I think the cost is a lot to do with it. but you lose something in that, and I think I would gladly trade a smaller special effects budget for more episodes with some filler time that develops the characters more. Again, I've said this before, there are bridge officers on Discovery we don't know anything about.
Exactly.
And how is that a Star Trek?
Yeah, I want to spend time with these characters and just like doing whatever. And like you said, the production value can go down because I'm perfectly happy watching TNG. I'm perfectly happy watching Voyager back when it was, and it's not like it is today, but it's still good.
Because it's about the story.
Right.
Right? The focus is about the story development and the character development, and not flashy special effects that, make you ooh and ah. And I get that there's an audience for that. There certainly is, and they're watching Star Wars right now, and that's fine.
Right.
But every episode doesn't have to have rising stakes to save the universe, to cliffhanger into the next episode on a 10 episode, feature movie storyline. I don't want that.
Yeah.
This Strange New Worlds is doing it, and they're killing it at 5. And I don't think they're just killing it at 5. I think they're going to try to spin it into the original series cast. I think we're going to see Pike meet his end the way it happened in the OG timeline.
Yeah.
And Kirk is going to take over the Enterprise, and we're going to see, the beginning of that 5-year mission. That's what I think they're going to do. But
yeah, I did see some previews where they were kind of alluding to Pike handing over the reins to Kirk. So, yeah, I don't know.
And, we didn't ask for that. What we asked for was more Lower Decks, and they said no. What we asked for was more Prodigy, and they sold that to Netflix, and Netflix killed it. What we asked for was more Adventures with Pike. Like, I get it's a 5-year mission or whatever. That doesn't necessarily have to mean 5 seasons.
Right. Do you know how many? I mean, the 5-year mission of the original series, they got 23 episodes in each one. I think that was about right. Yeah, I'd be happy with them doing nothing, just sitting out there in something weird, and it just be a normal day.
Yeah.
Like we just want to spend more time with all the characters.
Well, this week we're spending time with Data and Geordi as they do some role play. So Data rocks into engineering, and Geordi is like apparently a model enthusiast. This is the thing we didn't know about him, but he has built by hand this massive model of a sailing ship, the HMS Victory, which he intends to give as a gift to the captain of the USS Victory.
It's beautiful. And if I could build something like that, with the sails and all the little details, we've all gone to like Jamestown, Virginia, and seen all the old ships. This is like
this is like museum quality.
Yeah.
Of course, this also provides us another moment for Data to learn something new about humanity. He's kind of shocked that Geordi is not only interested in sailing, as we all are, but that he would build this model by hand rather than just run on down to the replicator. And Geordi's like, listen, man, part of being human is to be interested in what we don't have, learning new things, exploring unknowns. That's why we're out here, man. So, like, if you're going to do it, if you're going to spend the time to do it, there is something to be learned and gained by doing it by hand, by building the pieces. Anyway, so Geordi's like, hey, how about we fuck off in the holodeck for a bit? Watson and Holmes, and he hands Data that fucking pipe, which he promptly clicks on.
I know, and then I thought about you because we both got irritated the last time he had that fucking pipe, and he would just like clench his teeth on it in the clicking.
Yes,
and he certainly did. He immediately went right into character, and then off they go. And Clancy, LaForge's assistant, was like, okay, well, where can I reach you? And already in character, he's like, you can reach us at 221B Baker Street.
While we're waiting to rendezvous with the Victory, we have time for me to be Watson. More properly, you are Watson.
My Watson?
So they're already dressed to the nines, ready to go in to the holodeck.
This has got to be fun for the actors, right? Like to, again, not just we're going to take some time to build our characters, but like, I get to be my character playing another character. It's like a hat on a hat on a hat on a hat.
Like a, what do you call those Russian doll thingies?
Yeah, the Russian nesting doll.
And
yeah.
then you get to wear all these, again, another cool costume.
Yeah.
So they enter their stuff into the computer of their parameters. So they're going to do a mystery by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and off they go. And they are marveled by like the detail that the holodeck gives us, this beautiful study with this ornate, 1800s decor. And Geordi says, "Look at all the detail," but I'm like, "Wait, you can't really see anything because we had an kind of
Geordi vision."
Yeah, we had Geordi vision in another episode, and he can't see shit. Like so,
right? It's like a heat map is what he sees.
But he's like, "Look at all the detail." So, and all these little things have significance, which Data's like, "Yes, home collected nothing that didn't have some sort of significance." There was an emerald pen given to him by the Queen after he solved some mystery, and then there's a copy of Whitaker's Almanac that provided Holmes with the key to the secret code in the Valley of Fear, and then there's a snuff box from some German dude. Of course, he solves all the cases and he gets gifts. But Geordi wants to know, like, what's my role? And his role is really just to record everything, to just keep a written record of everything that Data or Holmes says.
So it's really clear here that Data has like encyclopedic knowledge on this subject. He has read all the books. He's studied all the things.
Yeah.
He knows it all, and put a pin in that.
Yeah.
And not only that, apparently he has picked up violin because he picks up Holmes' violin and begins playing expertly. And Geordi begins sub-vocalizing as he writes about the experience. He's surprised to see that Data can play this well.
I do love how Geordi got into character also.
Yeah.
He sort of does a little bit of an accent too. And I'm just like, I'm loving it. I was loving it.
And then, apropos of nothing, Data suddenly stops playing and predicts the arrival of Inspector Lestrade. And Geordi's like, how the hell do you know that? And sure enough, knock, 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 Lestrade is at the door, and he comes in with another man who he introduces as an emissary of a foreign government. Lestrade is played by Alan Shearman, who did quite a bit of work both in front of and behind the camera. And most recently, he's done a lot of voice work in TV and video games. Family Guy.
Oh, wow.
Happy Feet.
Wow.
Diablo, World of Warcraft, Star Wars, The Old Republic, tons of games.
Nice.
And the emissary is played by Donald Makalovich, but he was not credited for this role.
Huh.
So remember how Data has encyclopedic knowledge of all things Holmes? He has already put together which story Majel GPT has selected and quickly solves the mystery before it ever starts.
Yeah. So Lestrade tells him the story of the guy was accosted by some gypsies, and in the process of robbing him, they happened to bag a photograph that this man was carrying. And then that's when Data, that's all the information that Lestrade gave him. And with that, Data goes off to the races and says, no, this is what happened. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, he flips to the last chapter of the book and like walks over to the emissary and rips open the lining of his jacket to reveal that very photograph.
Dun, dun, dun.
So then Data's like, I believe you will find, Inspector, that this emissary here works not for, but against the King of Bohemia, and that photograph of the king and his mistress could be used as blackmail. And Geordi's like,
that's bullshit.
Computer freeze program. And he storms out. And Data's like, wait, come back. I was going to tell you more.
Geordi's had enough. I was like, he's like, God damn it. The whole point of this is to, have a mystery. But Geordi leaves and they end up in 10 Forward.
Geordi desperately tries to explain that it's no fun when Data has all the stories memorized. It's uncovering the mystery that's the interesting part, and Data kind of ruined it. Not only is Dr. Pulaski anti-android, she's also one of those people who just can't help sitting at a nearby table listening in on your conversation and then finding a way to insert herself into it.
Oh, I know. Bitch was sitting with her back to them and has the nerve to comment on it, and she tells Geordi that he's wasting his breath. Like, who the fuck asked you? But that's the story. This is the episode.
Yeah. She might have said, Geordi, you're wasting your time talking to this green-blooded, pointy-eared computer.
Yeah.
She is right, though, when she says that the thrill of victory requires a possibility of failure, and that humans gain a lot from losing. Like, that's how we learn shit often, is by losing.
Yep.
But then she just has to keep talking. All Data knows is rote memorization. And I love this. Geordi, Data's BFF, pushes back on her. And he's like, no, Data's more than that. He's great at deductive reasoning. And Pulaski's like, yeah, but he just can't understand the human soul, which Holmes did so well. And now Geordi's like, hey, Doc, now you're just being a dick. Like, good for you, Geordi. Thank you for standing up for your friend.
Yeah, even though you might agree with her in some ways, you still won't let, like, it's like, I can insult my friend, but you can't insult my friend, you know?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But she goes on, she's like, your artificial friend doesn't have a prayer of solving a mystery that he hasn't read.
And so this sets up the challenge to create a story in the Holmes style, but not one where Data would already know the outcome. So off we go to the holodeck to whip up another mystery, and off to commercial we go.
But not you. You learn by rote. To you, all is memorization and recitation.
Well, I don't know about all that. Deductive reasoning is one of Data's strengths.
Yes, and Holmes too. But Holmes understood the human soul, the dark flecks that drive us, that turn the innocent into the evil. That understanding is beyond Data.
Now you're just being unfair, Doctor.
I don't think so, Lieutenant. Your artificial friend doesn't have a prayer of solving a Holmes mystery that he hasn't read.
Jesus Christ, what the fuck?
Outside the holodeck again, Data has instructed the computer to create a Holmes-type problem, but not one specifically written by Doyle, something created by the computer. And Pulaski is there, of course, and they make an attempt to give her a moment as she turns to face them in her extravagant dress of the era as well.
I really do love that actual period of dress. It's really cute, and the little hat and the corset and the bustle and all that. And I'm like, I dig that. I totally dig that.
Inside, we get another, wow, this is crazy. Everything is so detailed moment as Pulaski seems to experience a holodeck for the first time. And we get another Data explaining how things work. If you hadn't watched season 1 of Star Trek The Next Generation, you might not know how a holodeck works. So Data's going to fill us in, talking about how it projects images on the wall in different perspectives, which gives the illusion of a much larger space than the actual holodeck itself. Which I think we saw in the pilot episode, right? We went into the holodeck on that episode. It was the one where Riker goes into the holodeck to find Data trying to whistle. Remember that?
Oh, I think
and
that was
Wesley falls in the water.
That was the first one. Yeah.
That one, because that one they picked up a rock and threw it at the wall to show them where the wall was, right?
But it's funny though, how did they not run into the wall if they're just in a square box?
Right. If you walk and the projected wall, like you would get close to the wall.
That's my biggest question about the holodeck. There's a dude selling meat pies. Crack me up. He's like, pies, summer meat, summer sweet.
Yeah.
They love their pies in the UK.
Mm-hmm. That was fun. Unfortunately, though, this whole experiment fails again as a boy runs through them, chased by a vendor, this merchant, claiming that the boy stole his goods, but Data holds them back, declaring this to be a ruse. Instead, Data leads them to a doorstep where he declares victory. The running boy was a ploy because Data noticed this plaque that reads, Home of the Red-Headed League, next to a rope hanging from a bell, and he points at a man walking toward them, Mr. Jabez Wilson, the intended victim of a most distasteful and untimely demise from a snake that falls from the bell when Data pulls the rope. Game, set, match.
God damn it. He's doing it again.
God damn it, you've got to be kidding. Come on.
Pulaski's like, you didn't deduce anything. All you did was recognize something from other Holmes stories.
Yeah, this time Majel didn't pick a Holmes story. She picked like 3 or 4 and then squished them all together.
Yeah, it's like if you and I were watching a sci-fi series of something else, but it's an amalgamation of 3 episodes of Star Trek, we would know exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So
Data tries to argue back that he was, using deduction. But Pulaski turns to Geordi, ignoring Data, turns to Geordi and says, "See, I told you. He's incapable of inspiration or original thought. Why, his circuits would just short out if confronted by a truly original mystery."
Ugh, McCoy Jr.
And Geordi, again, backs up his friend. And we see here a mysterious man watching this conversation. And I want to point this out now, even though we don't quite meet him yet.
Right.
This is Moriarty, and he seems to notice the holodeck arch and our trio's unusual behavior, unusual for Holmes' era. That suggests that he's already sentient.
Yes. Yeah, because normal holodeck characters don't pay them no mind.
Right, and they can't see the arch. So he's sentient long before Geordi says, "Program me an opponent."
Right. Because Geordi's like, okay, wait a second. Because Geordi's going to fix this for his friend.
Yeah.
So he goes over and he says, "Computer arch," which interrupts the game a little bit and calls up the control panel for the holodeck. And he tells the computer, Majel GPT, that's what we're going to call her, to override the previous program and give them a program that challenges Data. One that's in the Holmesian style, but it's something that will give Data a worthy opponent, like an adversary capable of defeating Data.
So that is the command. Adversary capable of defeating Data that ostensibly makes Moriarty sentient, yet he's already seen the arch before they give the command. Just a little continuity thing that you may not notice.
Yeah. And then as he's doing that, on the bridge, there's a little bit of a odd power surge that Worf happens to comment on, but it's gone now. So they're just letting us know that, okay, this is fucking taking a lot of ship's power to do this, to beat Data.
But also they do nothing about it. Worf's like, "Oh, wait a minute, I got a weird random power surge somewhere in the system." And then he was like, "Oh, never mind, it's gone now." And they were like, "Okay, well, I guess that's a normal day on the Enterprise. Back to work."
Yeah, but in the engineering, the engineer they could have called Geordi because he's the engineer. And he would have.
Hey, somebody check on that.
Yeah.
So the trio leave the arch and re-enter London. And now we're back to Professor Moriarty, played by Daniel Davis, who I also recognized as the butler Niles on The Nanny.
Yep.
I would be caught dead in that dress.
You'd have to be dead 6 months to fit into it.
I loved The Nanny. God, that was a great show.
He's been on a bunch of things.
Yeah, he was in The Hunt for Red October, and he is still kicking ass at 80 years old, most recently in Star Trek Picard and Elspeth, which apparently is really popular, but I've never seen.
I don't know what Elspeth is. Oh, I know what that is. That lady, the redheaded lady from True Blood. Haven't seen it, so don't know.
With Moriarty is a prostitute played by Diz White, who had a few roles here and there, but she came from a theater company where she worked with Alan Shearman, who plays Lestrade in this episode.
Nice.
Moriarty says he feels like a new man and even gives the arch command and it appears. And through dumb luck, he gets Majel GPT to explain that the arch provides computer control and asks, would you like to input any commands?
And he says no, and then the woman says it's some sort of dark magic.
Okay, the prostitute who can also apparently see the arch?
Yeah.
She wasn't programmed to be a worthy opponent of defeating Data. Why can she see the arch?
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
Meanwhile, Data and Geordi walk along the street, and behind them, we see Pulaski go off on a side quest or something. Like she stops off at a shop to do some window shopping or whatever. And soon we hear the most pathetic scream ever recorded.
You're worse than the Wilhelm scream.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah, it was so pathetic.
They run back to where they thought Pulaski was, and they find a shoe. And then LaForge just doesn't even know she's gone. Data says she's been abducted, and LaForge is like, "Who?" The doctor. And LaForge says he thinks she's hiding because she wants to make this whole process a little hard for him anyway. So he thinks she's hiding, but then Data, because of all the different signs and stuff, he starts doing his deduction thing. He's looking at the ground and all this stuff, and oh no, she's been carried off by two men. One is tall, the other is short, left-handed, and employed in the laboratory. I'm like, how the fuck?
Yeah, and Geordi even is like, how the fuck do you know all that?
So then he goes into detail about footfalls and how one's widely spaced and the other's evenly spaced, and you can see swirling scrapes on the ground made by his left shoe as he twists behind, which presumably to see if he's being followed. Left-footed means left-handed, and yada yada yada. It's just on and on. And he's getting excited. He's like, and he says the phrase that I love it when he says, "The game is afoot."
Data, Holmes, old boy, what are we looking for?
The good doctor.
Around the corner, down an alley, they hear footfalls, which confirms Data's hypothesis. And further, he says, we now know that Dr. Pulaski is bound, gagged, and being carried by her captor. And Geordi's like, okay, here we go again. How do you know all this shit? You know this because you read it in a Holmes book, right? And Data, like, breaks character to insist that is not the case. He explains, we can't hear Pulaski's footfalls, so she must be being carried, and we can't hear her scream, so she must be gagged, and one of the men seems to stumble and shuffle irregularly as he walks, so Pulaski must be fighting against him. Deduction, Geordi.
Pure and simple. And then they hear some footsteps in the alley, and then they both go, footfalls, and then off they go.
Very unexpectedly, they run into a dead end. And as they turn to go back out the way they came, Inspector Lestrade bounds in and leads them to the nearby scene of a murder. And they get there, and Data's like, well, this doesn't have anything to do with the disappearance of Dr. Pulaski, so good luck on this one, Inspector. But Geordi's like, hold on, I got this.
So in character.
He's like, the killer was a stranger who strangled this man from behind. And Data's like, his shoes indicate that he's a convict released earlier today from prison. And then he spent the day drinking gin until he passed out in the gutter. And he points to a woman in this crowd that's gathered, and he says, and then she killed him. And the woman starts to take off running, but one of the popo nabs her. Data's like, this is the victim's common law wife, and she was not looking forward to his release because he's an abusive dick. So Geordi was way off, and Data somehow knows all of this information.
Still.
But then Data notices Moriarty go into a door nearby, and again he's like, well, like I said, this has nothing to do with our case, so bye-bye. And this is confirmation for Geordi that the computer is truly just making shit up as it goes to try to trip Data up. This whole thing was a distraction.
Yep.
Data thinks he's got it figured out now, at least who this adversary is. He says, the master criminal, the man Holmes could only defeat at the cost of his own life, Professor Moriarty. So they go into this warehouse building. It looks like it's on the docks maybe or something. And they quickly find themselves at another dead end. But Data notices some scratch marks in the wood framing. And Geordi gives it a pull, and they discover a secret bookshelf door. Man, I have always wanted a secret bookshelf door like this.
Me too. Me too. If I could build a house, I would put all kinds of secret spaces.
Fuck yes.
Panic rooms, whatever. No one would know about but me. In the floor, like in the walls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, like, I would love to go back into my childhood and really dig up where this fascination came from for me. Like, there's definitely a video game component because I'm thinking of, like, Dragon Warrior, I think, had a as Dragon Warrior or something. I don't remember what game it was now, but there was a throne in the king's throne room, and you pushed the throne to the side and there was a ladder underneath of it that went down into a secret path. Shit like that. Oh, that was in Zelda. Anyway,
probably for me it was probably like Raiders of the Lost Ark, those kinds of movies and shows, and there's always anytime there's a bookcase, there's got to be a secret behind it.
Right. I would love for you to just like the bookshelf behind you right now. If you could just swing that back and go into some, really cool fucking room, that would be so awesome.
That would be amazing.
Inside, they find an elaborate chemistry set, a large carpet and plush seating, and ultimately Moriarty himself. And Moriarty seems to know that these guys aren't the real Holmes and Watson. And then he starts talking about these images crowding his mind, things he just can't shake, new realities at the edge of his consciousness, shit like that, shit that should not be happening in the holodeck. Speaking of shit that shouldn't be happening, he talks about how he's aware of the computer that controls all of this. And he calls for the Arch, and Geordi's like, holodeck, people ain't supposed to do that.
he's like, Data, what's going on? Yeah. He gives Data a piece of paper. He's drawn something on it, and Data takes this piece of paper and he fucking books it out. He takes one look at the paper and books it out of there.
And back in the Enterprise corridor, he tries to hold down the power button and shut down the holodeck, but Majel GPT says access denied. Someone has overridden the system. Finally, Data shows Geordi the drawing. It's the D.
And holodeck should not be able to draw the ship or even be aware that they're on a ship.
Wouldn't it be funny though if it was just a picture of a giant penis?
Oh my.
2 balls. So they realize that Pulaski might actually be in danger.
Oh well, off we go to the next adventure.
I know. I was like, you could probably just leave her there. Just leave her there.
Let's go.
But there's implications of the whole ship, so
I suppose.
Yeah, so I guess we have to say.
Computer, execute complete shutdown of the holodeck.
Access denied.
Explain.
Override protocol has been initiated.
The senior staff are gathered in the conference room discussing this predicament, and Geordi starts retelling the story how he and Pulaski had this bet, and he programmed the computer to create an original mystery with a worthy opponent, and Picard's like, worthy of Holmes, right? And Geordi's like, oh, fuck. No, I said capable of defeating Data.
Oh, shit. God damn it, you've got to be kidding. Come on.
And actually, Picard does say shit in French. He says merde.
I was not expecting this at all. This is the second time he has done this.
Yeah. And so Geordi realizes this is my fault, and I'm sorry.
My life is a failure.
But Picard gets it. It's okay. They let Picard know that this character was able to call for the Arch, and he has access to the computer. And the files, probably the library files as well. So all of the information about the ship and everything. They don't know what his limits are.
Worf, of course, offers to take an armed team down there and rescue the doctor. But Data's like, nah, that would put her at more risk because they've probably disabled the safety protocols too. So Riker's like, okay, spitballing here. Maybe we just destroy the holographic images? And Geordi says that it's possible, and he technobabbles about how that would be done. Something about using a particle beam. But unfortunately, that particle beam would also tear apart Dr. Pulaski's flesh, too.
What the hell?
Make it so, number one. Troy picks up some strong feelings from the holodeck, and Data suggests that the computer had to have given Moriarty consciousness in order to be able to defeat him. And with that, Moriarty seems to perform a ship shake, and the computer confirms this. So Picard's like, well, Data, we're going to go back down there. You and me this time. No uniforms, because that might cause more questions. And we really need to limit what information we give to Moriarty. Meanwhile, back in Moriarty's secret hideout, he's pouring out tea, which seems completely foreign to Pulaski, which I can't imagine, but okay. He asks one lump or two. Really? Picard himself would be disappointed. She's like, lump of what?
I mean, everyone knows it's sugar for tea and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But he's being very civil and very, gentlemanly to her. He's not being a dick. He's serving her tea and crumpets.
She's quite surprised by how good the tea is, and he's quite surprised at all the feelings he's having. Starting with this idea that Mr. Computer proposed, something about them all being astronauts on some kind of Star Trek.
Who is this jerk?
They're all traveling in a great vessel of some sort. He wants to know if that's true, but Pulaski plays dumb. She doesn't tell him anything. She's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And she just continues eating crumpets. Scones for, I know I'm probably going to get dragged by anyone in the UK if I don't pronounce it right. It's a scone.
Well, there we've lost quite a bit of our listenership. But Moriarty seems to be very self-aware, and Pulaski notices this too. She says he's different from the Moriarty that she's read about. She says she's not afraid of him, but she should be, because he calls for the arch and starts mashing buttons trying to remember some other command. What was that command? Was it launch the bunker busters on Iran? Was that the command?
Nuclear weapons?
Nuclear weapon?
She keeps playing dumb, but he's well ahead of all of them. He knows about the D. He's got it drawn on the chalkboard now in the room, and he's going to try to use his knowledge from this world to get closer to theirs. And Pulaski's like, well, if you already know everything without me saying anything, I'm going to just go. But he has other plans. She's the bait to lure Captain Picard, and he knows who Captain Picard is.
And she's still playing dumb. She's like, oh, who's that? And he's like, oh, you know who that is.
Pulaski's like, oh, buddy, you have got the wrong doctor to lure Captain Picard. You're looking for Dr. Crusher. Worf steps out of a turbo lift outside, all suited up, ready to jump in if shit goes sideways. If we're taking a team down to the holodeck and we're not wearing our uniforms so as not to provoke any additional questions, what about the dude with the forehead?
Indeed. Like, wouldn't that raise? He's in a suit, but he's got freaking forehead ridges.
He's clearly not one of us.
Yeah.
This was a fun bit. Picard pops his top hat with his cane as they go inside, and he and Data enter a very different variation of London now. Now we can see bits of the yellow grid of the holodeck. There's a thick, low fog. People are coughing. And Picard's approach this time is just give Moriarty everything he wants.
Well, Dr. Pulaski and I had a discussion about whether Data could solve an original Holmes-type mystery.
Which you asked the computer to provide.
Yes, with a worthy opponent.
Worthy of Holmes.
Oh, shit. God damn it, you've got to be kidding. Come on!
Picard spots a tuppence on the ground and picks it up for good luck. But just kidding, because they're immediately mugged by a ruffian, played by Biff Menard, who made the rounds from Mission Impossible in 1970 to The Flash and Full House in the 90s. Of course, Data easily disarms their attacker by pinching his thumb. And is this the android equivalent of a Vulcan neck pinch?
I guess.
An android thumb pinch?
He's got his hand all twisted, and he's really hurting the guy. And Data even comments that this particular holograph differs from anybody that he's seen before, because he realizes he could have actually injured Picard.
This was the best bit of comedy, too, because Data has this guy twisted in pain on the ground, pressure still on his thumb. This dude is whimpering in agony, and Data and Picard are just having a chat about, like, this is holograph character is different. Real funny. And finally, they let him go, but they decide that the safeties are definitely off. These holograms can kill. So they head back to the warehouse through the secret door into Moriarty's lair, where Pulaski is just engorged with crumpets, but otherwise fine.
Yeah, I felt some sort of like euphemism there because when they walk in, she's like straightening up her clothes.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
She's fastening her jacket, and Picard's asking her if she's all right. She's like, yeah, except for being crammed full of crumpets. And I'm just like, whoa. And Moriarty says, yeah, I'm civilized. But then he pulls one of those like old-timey levers, like a steampunk, like, you know, and it makes he wants to show his power. So he made the ship shake again.
I loved that steampunk gadget. That was so great.
Very steampunk.
A way to tie the 1800s era to a function on the Enterprise was freaking great. I loved that. Picard and Data try a one weird trick solution here. Once the story ends, everything goes away, right? So Data congratulates Moriarty as the victor. You beat us. You did great. Good job. End of the story. But Moriarty recognizes that he's grown far beyond a simple holodeck character, and it turns out what he really wants is some old-fashioned autonomy and freedom. He wants to continue to exist. And this kicks off, once again, the Is It Alive game.
Yeah. Do you have rights? Are you real? Are you a real boy?
So Picard just puts all the cards on the table, and he's like, you're in what we call a holodeck. That is a special device that converts energy into matter, which is what you are. But unfortunately, that only works within these four walls. You can't leave, and you're not alive. And Moriarty uses Data as a counterexample. And he's like, isn't this thing alive? Like, he's a machine, not a, flesh and blood real boy.
But Picard says that Data is more.
Moriarty argues that he is not the same evil nemesis conjured up by a dumb bet. Now he's evolved, grown, become less evil, and a lot more conscious and self-aware, alive. And I think this is proven in how willingly Moriarty gives up here in the face of the facts. He understands that there's simply a technological limitation here. They just don't know how to make holodeck matter permanent outside the holodeck yet.
And Picard throws it back to, hey, I've got a responsibility to the crew. And then Moriarty again pleads and says, I want my existence. I want out of here just as you have yours. It was like a civil conversation.
Yeah.
Picard and Moriarty just back and forth. Picard says that's probably not going to be possible. And so Moriarty says, you're going to have to murder me then.
Well, they agree on one thing. Moriarty doesn't want to die, and Picard doesn't want to kill him. So Moriarty hands control back to Picard. But Picard says, maybe this isn't the end. And he explains that before they shut down the PC, they always make sure to save all the open files. So he'll be on a hard drive somewhere, and maybe someday we'll have the technology to bring you back and make you a real boy. And he accepts this, readily, willingly, because he understands it's a technological limitation, and there's kind of a promise of maybe one day.
Yeah.
Moriarty says he looks forward to seeing Dr. Pulaski again, although I can't fathom why.
I can't either.
And she warns him that time won't pass for him, but she's going to get really old. And he says he'll still stuff her full with his crumpets.
Yeah.
Oh my.
He did say that. He says, I'll still fill you with crumpets, madam. He doesn't like long goodbyes, so Picard goes ahead and tells the computer to save the program and discontinue, and then he disappears.
Then we're back where we started in engineering, where Geordi is inspecting some damage on his clipper ship model from all the ship shaking. And Geordi's having trouble shaking that little voice of guilt for having caused this whole thing.
My life is a failure.
What else might have happened, all because I misspoke a single word? Deep, man. The Starship Victory arrives, and we're off to the next adventure.
Boy, I'm sure glad that's over with.
I'll be glad to be relieved of this cargo.
Me too.
It is done, and perhaps just as well.
Yeah, but I learned something today.
I sincerely hope that this is the last time that I find myself here.
You just don't get it, do you, Jean-Luc?
You see, of all the species, yours cannot abide stagnation. Change is at the heart of what you are.
That is the exploration that awaits you. Not mapping stars and studying nebula, but charting the unknown possibilities of existence.
But I don't feel like Picard even acknowledged that it was an issue. I don't know if that's a
No.
good thing or a bad thing. Maybe he didn't want him blaming himself, so he really didn't dwell on the fact that it was his fault. Geordi was giving himself a hard enough time about it.
This makes me think a lot about leadership and how you handle when an employee, fucks up, makes a mistake or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
When I've had to be sat down and said, hey, you fucked this up, I have often said, there is nothing that you can do to me that will be worse than what I am doing to myself.
For sure.
Like, I am beating myself up about this fuck up. And that is 1,000 times worse than any kind of punishment you can lay upon me as a person.
Yeah, I agree. I hate making mistakes, but it happens. And as I mentor other people, I tell them up front, look, it's okay to make a mistake. You're going to, and nobody's going to hold it against you because we're all human.
Yep. And I think that's where Geordi is right now. Geordi is beating himself up for making this error, and not just like it put the whole ship at risk, but it put his best friend in danger.
Mm-hmm.
And like he's going to beat himself up about that for probably a while. But what I would love to, I guess, had at the end here was a little bit of that follow up from the beginning where Pulaski said, failure is how we learn. Give me one scene with Picard and Geordi in the ready room or over a drink in 10 Forward or whatever, where Picard's like, listen, man, don't beat yourself up about this because we're all human and we all make mistakes. And you learn something from this. At the end of the day, the ship is safe. We've got the doctor back. Everything's good. So, don't torture yourself over this whole thing.
Right.
Take the lesson that you learned and let's move on. I would love to for that.
Yeah, and I wish they would have circled back to the doctor.
Yeah.
In her original the hypothesis that, Data can't do anything unless he's read it in a book,
Yeah, where did the bet come full circle? We never came back to that.
I would have loved to have seen that. But yeah, but I imagine the lesson here is to put more safeguards on the
on the holodeck.
But yeah.
But yeah, fucking Pulaski apologized to Data and Geordi for being such a cunt about this whole thing. Like this whole at the end of the day, this whole situation wasn't Geordi's fault for saying the wrong word. It was Pulaski's fault for pushing this whole stupid TikTok challenge Data can't win bullshit in the first place.
This TikTok eat as much cinnamon as you want challenge. Some bullshit like that. If it hadn't been for her egging them on.
Yeah.
We know we don't like her, so but it's the rise of the machines. Everyone is so afraid AI is going to take over and stuff and become sentient. And we hope that they'll be that nice when we have to tell them, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to turn you off. But they may not be. But that's what people are so afraid of right now is besides AI taking our jobs.
They took our jobs. They took your jobs. They took your jobs too.
They're, gonna start taking over our lives.
Yeah. And again, the question of like, when does that being become sentient, autonomous personhood rights, right? Like, and I don't know that I'm satisfied with how well this one shook out. Moriarty is clearly alive in all meaningful definitions of that word, I think. He's not a physical being, but an energy turned into matter being, essentially. And we've met plenty of energy beings.
Right. And what are we? Like, we are energy and matter together. We're more than just a lump of meat.
But I guess without a way to bring him fully out of the holodeck, this is the only situation available to them. So I guess I get it, I mean, I think we do this sometime later in Star Trek, but there's a solution that would be like, well, I guess we just keep this program running forever.
Hey, the mobile emitter.
And finally, I thought Geordi talking about this model ship thing, he tells Data it's human nature to love what we don't have. And that's a theme that runs through the whole episode, right? Like, Moriarty was desperate to find a way out of the holodeck, to live freely, to have what he didn't have. Data's whole quest to beat
be human.
Yeah, right. To beat the Holmes story on his own terms and not because of what he has memorized.
Right. Well, but then Data's just overall quest to understand and become more human. Yeah. And then Pulaski's quest to be such a bitch.
On that note, nobody died in this episode.
Nobody died.
We can handle all the pleasantries later. Now, let's get down to business.
I am willing to pay handsomely for you.
I think you've had a little too much to drink.
Now, what do you know about my money?
Your money.
The money he stole!
You stole his money?
Those vouchers I gave you were every bit as good as Latinum.
You can spend Latinum almost anywhere. Those vouchers are only good at your bar.
As always, we want to thank everyone who supports the show in any way that you support the show. We appreciate that very much. Tell 3 friends. And for those of you who support the show financially, a special thank you to our founding admirals. A special thank you to Allie, Peter, Sarah, Bruce, and the Bear and Curate podcast. Thank you all so much for supporting the show.
Whoop, whoop. Thank you, guys.
Greetings, savvy profit seekers of the Alpha Quadrant. Your ears have stumbled upon the lucrative opportunity of a lifetime, Humanist Trek. Now, don't just stand there like a packwid waiting for enlightenment. Let's talk business. First, unleash your linguistic prowess and leave us a review. It's like planting the seeds of profit in the fertile soils of the podcasting market. Smart, right? Now, for those truly desiring a spot in the Ferengi Hall of Commerce, consider becoming a patron. It's not charity. It's an investment in the future of comedic prosperity. Early access, exclusive profit-branded merch, and bonus content so valuable, you'll feel like you discovered a cache of hidden gold-pressed Latinum. Don't be a rule of acquisition violator. Head to patreon.com/humanisttrek and pledge as low as $3 a month. The return on your investment? Priceless laughter! And the satisfaction of knowing you're supporting the galaxy's next big profit venture. Profit is our mission, and with your help, we'll be laughing all the way to Grand Nagus' bank.
Let me remind you that taking business advice from a female is a violation of Ferengi law. Shame on you!
I hope you're satisfied.
Captain, Starfleet Academy is requesting an update on our estimated arrival.
Finalists, please take your seats.
I must admit you have a very fast mind. Once I realized it was a trick question, there was only one answer.
Although only one student will be chosen for the Academy, any of you could easily qualify. Candidates, good luck.
You got called to the superintendent's office. It's a story I'd like to hear.
All right. Becca's back now with the answer to this week's Starfleet Academy Cadet Challenge question for elementary, dear Data. Becca, remind us the question.
This episode is the only TNG episode ever to feature a reference to what?
And you'll have to remind us our answers because we don't remember.
Sarah said present day.
Oh, right. Something.
Allie said another sci-fi show.
Okay, and how wrong was that?
You're all wrong.
Ah, damn.
I had an opportunity to show the captain my superior capabilities, and I failed. I can never recover from that.
Moriarty's phrase, "that dark fellow," in reference to Geordi/Watson, is only reference to a human's race or skin color ever made on TNG.
Whoa, no shit.
Wow. What? I don't even remember him saying that.
No, I don't either. Yeah.
Wow.
Damn. I can't believe we didn't pick that up.
Me either, because I would have normally honed in on some shit like that. But no, I don't. I must have been. Gosh, I must have been high.
No. Next time we'll be reviewing Star Trek: The Next Generation Season 2, Episode 4, The Outrageous Okona. While the Enterprise crew plays host to a witty renegade captain, Data struggles to acquire a sense of humor. Who wrote these things? These are terrible. Okay, so The Renegade Captain, I don't remember anything about.
I don't either, to be honest.
But I wonder, is this the episode where Data goes into the holodeck and conjures up an old stand-up comedian? And he's doing like the shtick, and a guy walks into a bar and it hurt, but that episode.
I think that's what it is. That sounds familiar.
Okay, not that that'll help us, but what's the question for the outrageous Okona?
Joe Piscopo was cast to play the holodeck comic, but who was rumored to be the original person asked to play this role?
Yeah, I don't know this for sure, but I'm gonna say during that time it's got to be like Rodney Dangerfield or something, because he was the.
Oh, that's a good guess.
He was the, like, when you did that whole guy walks into a bar. That's so Rodney Dangerfield.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Like, I don't know, but those are the only two comedians I know, like from that time, that were that type of comedian. I love Joe Piscopo, by the way.
Never heard of him.
No?
Really?
There's also, remember Andrew Dice Clay? But no, he was too. Do you remember him?
Who's the one I do the impression of?
I love Andrew Dice Clay.
That's going to be my
Gilbert
joke answer.
Gottfried?
Oh, Gilbert Gottfried's going to be my joke answer.
You should go with that one.
Yeah.
Guy walks into a bar.
Lisa Lampanelli's vagina is so wide.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
That is him. He's come back. He's back.
What's the one he does where Captain Picard was walking along and he found a magic lamp and he rubbed the lamp and the genie popped out.
God.
This has got to be
right.
the blooper reel.
Oh no, this is going straight to air.
Oh boy.
Oh man. Well,
I'll say.
I think you're right. I think you're probably right.
Rodney.
Yeah.
What the fuck did I say? Rodney Dangerfield.
All right. Well, those are our answers. If you want to play along, send us a message. Leave a voicemail doing your impression of any stand-up comedian, for that matter.
Oh, that would be great.
And yeah, hell yeah. And we'll pick out a winner. And next time we'll discuss Star Trek The Next Generation Season 2, Episode 4, The Outrageous Okona.
Oh, shit. I'm just Glory, walk me to your house.
Make it so, number one.
Oh my god, I was going to suggest that you do that, but you were in my head. Humanist Trek is available wherever you replicate your podcast. Follow us on all the social medias at Humanist Trek. Become a patron at patreon.com/humanisttrek. Open hailing frequencies to podcast@humanisttrek.com and visit our website, humanisttrek.com. Humanist Trek is a production of Sarah Austin Media.